All right, so official review of Scream 7. I thought it was good. The movie was really gory compared to all the other Scream movies. It did a great job of playing the whodunit game. Uh, they've gotten to a point where, everyone, the movies have become so formulamatic, and the movies themselves has always talked about the rules of scary movies, right? The rules of surviving a horror movie. So they've done such a great job of that the directors and the writers really had to focus on how to misdirect you, how to get you to think, first off, how to point fingers at everyone, how to start eliminating everyone, then how to figure out who it really is, and then figure out the why. They did a great job of hiding the characters for the most part. Again, if you've seen enough of these, you know that the killer or killers has been shown to you as a character. Whether it's a main character like the first movies, whether it was a side character, the murderer is always someone in the circle, someone connected to, Sidney, and it's like I said, it's always a character that they introduce. So the movie started just about 6:30. By 7:30, I'd already pegged the killers. Granted, they have to eliminate a couple easy suspects, and they have to still give you a couple what ifs. But it got to a point where it's like, okay, you just start you've got enough of the character development that you can decide who the killers were. And it was really the first one, the primary it was a dead giveaway. They introduced the person, and you notice I said person. They introduced the person, and immediately you're like, what the fuck is this character's point? Oh, you're on the list, and yep, sure shit, you're the killer. The other one was introduced fairly early into the movie, and there was just enough of a what if that it kept me guessing between two of the characters. The problem is, this movie, where it really fell apart, was the why. So throughout the entire Scream series up to this point, the why has always been Sidney, who was played by Neve Campbell. Her character, like the very first Scream, the two, Matthew Lillard and Screech Ulrich, they kill Sidney's mom because Sidney's mom was having an affair with one of the guy's dad, caused a divorce, then he got paired up with his friend, decided to kill the mom, and then fuck it, they're going to kill the whole family, right? So that starts off Scream, and Scream as a franchise has done a great job of always bringing you back to the first movie. They've always done a phenomenal job of tying in the characters. So the first movie was because, like I said, Sidney's mom caused the divorce. So this guy kills, Sidney's mom and tries to kill Sidney. All the friends using horror movie tropes. And then the second one, the killer is one of the first killer's moms. Now she's getting revenge. The third one was the stepbrother, because he was mad that, or half brother, because, he was mad that the director dad basically caused the mom to be crazy, not want him, yada fucking yada. I forget the purpose. I forget the killer of the fourth one, or did I forget the killer of the fifth one? No, the fourth one was her cousin. Her cousin was mad and jealous that she was the Scream Queen now, and so the cousin wanted her moment of fame. I forget what 5 storyline was, and then the only thing I can remember from 5 was that the 2 chicks were actually related to one of the 2 first killers, but I forget who the actual killer was in the 5th one, and I just watched this 3 days ago. And their why, right? I forget the whole reasoning behind it. And then the 6th one was hey, you killed my son. You're the daughter of the first psychopath, and you killed my son in part 5. So now we got to kill you. So there's 3 killers in part 6, and then part 7. The part 7 why was the weakest of all of this. Like they've spent so much time writing the story to distract you from who the real killers were that they really did a shitty job of the why. And I think that's always been kind of like the allure, not only to determine who the killer is, but the why. Like I said, I had the killers pegged an hour into the movie. It was the why that I kept coming back to, and they kept leading you down to like, this path, and you're like, well, it could be because of blah. If we historically repeat it, it's someone in the family, it's a revenge plot. That wasn't the why. And this why was very disappointing. So I was kind of bummed with that. Like the ending bothered me because of the why was so weak. Like I said, the death scenes were, and the first ones were always kind of over the top, right? So like Scream 1, they killed Drew Barrymore by stabbing her, cutting her entrails, hanging her from the tree. They killed Rose McGowan by, she gets stuck in the dog door in the garage, and the garage chops her in half. Like, they were gory, but this one just went over the top. Like, we just got to have, like, massive blood, guts, fingers, and toes. Like, it went some ICP shit. Was that bad? No. Was it great? To me, the Scream movies were never about the gore. They were definitely about the killings, like definitely about the jump scares. Kind of the parody, but not parody. Like they killed people in a kind of like, as some of the movies went on, they killed people in a almost comedic fashion, but they still try to stay true to the like, hey, we're just stabbing someone, right? We're gonna find a way to stab them, cut them, push them off a ledge, whatever. It was, again, this one was a lot more gory than the other 6. I, however, do feel at this point, based on the shitty why that they did, I think the series has finally come to its end. Of course, the primary characters aren't dead. There was a lot of throwbacks and cameos through some of the people that died throughout the earlier shows. There was even some self-poking fun at the fact that Neve Campbell was not in Scream 6. Like, she bailed out because of the money. They didn't want to pay her. So they addressed that, like, hey, sorry, she had this whole dialogue where she was talking to one of the other characters and explaining why. And so they tried to give the fans a little bit of a, like, nod to say, listen, we fucked up, right? We didn't get Neve in for 6. She is a primary character. She is the Jamie Lee Curtis of this series, right? So I think they did a good job with that, or at least it was nice of them to do that to the series. I did like that. But I just feel now at this point, the series has run its course. If we look at the characters that are now left from the other movies, you've done enough of the generational meet and greets where you have what's left of the original cast meets the new cast when they try to do Scream 5, where Neve Campbell was introduced to the one chick plus Jenna Ortega, and Jenna Ortega and the other chick who's the daughter of Billy Loomis. Like, they made call outs to her and them in this Scream. In Scream 7, they made the call outs to the girls from 5 and 6. So they could always do another, like, partnership for 8. But at this point, I just don't know how you're going to do it to the satisfaction of keeping the historical storyline running without really just trashing the whole story and trying to start over like they thought they were going to do with Scream 5. Yeah, so I mean, great Scream movie. Like I said, I just watched all 6 of them on Sunday. I watched like 1 on Saturday and then 2 through 6 on Sunday to really kind of refresh myself. Watch this one. Good, gory. I think the only thing in the entire one out of all of this that wasn't really the part that you're like, dude, it was another one of these scenes where they had a couple shootouts and they fired way more bullets than those guns carried. Like, at one point, she had what looked to be either a Ruger or a Glock. At double stack, the Glock's going to hold maybe 12. Most of the Glock 9s are like 11 rounds, plus one in the pipe. Then she had a backup Beretta. They used that, and 5 rounds were fired at one scene, and then towards another scene, they're unloading with it. And I'm like, yo, you've gone through, the Berettas are 12 plus 1, 13 plus 1. So okay, you got, I don't know. Well, if it's a 9mm, you could actually do it. Could be 17. My 9's, I've got a 17 round mag in my 9. So 17 plus 1, 8. Okay, maybe 5, 13. Okay, maybe they did okay. Now that I'm replaying the scene in my head, it's possible that they were okay with the round count. But that was the one thing that most action / movies like this always screw up, is running out of bullets. And they just didn't run out of bullets. So, and there was a lot of the, Zombieland has the rule, you do the double tap, 2 to the chest, 1 to the head, or 2 to the head, 1 to the chest, whatever it is. In the last like 4 Scream movies, it's like you always shoot them in the head because, they either have bulletproof vests, or you never hit an organ, or they're just super strong. Always shoot them in the head. And there's like 4 or 5 times where she had the opportunity to shoot him in the head and she doesn't. Everybody in the theater's like, the rules. Like, it was kind of fun. Like, the theater definitely had a good time with it. You could hear a couple people behind me trying to figure out who the killer was. When they actually finally started to reveal, they're like, oh, the guy next to me was like, oh, that is. And I'm like, no, that was so-and-so. And he's like, oh, yeah. But there were a handful of scenes where the death was just like, everyone's like, ooh, gross, or like someone said something that referenced something throughout the history of the movies that everyone cheered for, clapped for, laughed at. It was a good crowd. It was a really good crowd. So enjoyed the movie. I don't know if they're going to be able to make an 8. At least not with the tie-ins to, Sydney and the group of historical killers. Like, it's to a point now where they've exhausted all of the really good, or at least the really I wouldn't say really good, but like they've exhausted their ability to tie in the why. At this point, they're going to just basically start going to, oh, this guy was a fan. Then why keep going? So I kind of hope that they stop at 7. I will absolutely see an 8 if 8 has a good why. If 8's got a good why, I'm in. I've heard a lot of people say that this one was the lowest rated score of all the Screams. And I don't know why, because, maybe it is because of the why, but I thought the movie itself was pretty solid. Like, the whole dynamic of, the next generation of Neve Campbell's family characters, her whole dynamic of the teenage daughter going through the same shit she went through and trying to protect her, and the whole story of like the teenage daughter is the same age as Sydney was in the first movie, so now history's repeating itself. I thought it was a decent plot line. I thought it was a good. I think the story was fairly well done. I don't know. Again, if they make an 8, I'm going to see 8. I'm just going to be disappointed if they don't give me a better why. So, if you're in for a good slasher flick, you like a good jump scare, you're okay with blood and gore, you definitely like a good jump scare, you're a fan of Neve Campbell, you're a fan of Courtney Cox, Matthew Lillard, like, go see 7. It was a good time. I enjoyed it. No post-credit, just mid-credit, and it wasn't anything that added to the story. It was just a couple of the characters. If once the credits start to roll, you just dip out, you're not going to miss anything. All right, later.